No, did that sound record?
We'll try it in a minute.
Okay, well, let's do that. I'll start at the beginning, you know, where I was born. I was born 47 Clarence Grove, Everton, Liverpool 5.
Everton?
It's the whole street's disappeared now. The bottom end was blown away during the war. But my earliest memories, I think must have been before my father died. He died when I was 3. I can remember hearing they used to publish newspapers that there was great news, extra, and there was one saying Hitler's speech, and everybody woke up, and it was when Chamberlain did the deal with Hitler to say
Peace.
it isn't got peace, which in a very short time was catastrophically over. That's a long time ago.
19...
That would be 1939.
when the war started.
Yeah. I went to Our Lady Immaculate School in Everton, a very Catholic school, and I'd just gone up to the big boys'. I'd come out of the infant school and was going to the next stage. And one day, we all got hustled off because we were told we were going to be evacuated. Now, before that, my grandmother and the women in the house, my grandmother lived just down the street, they were making haversacks, and we knew exactly what we'd got to prepare. You needed an enamel plate, spoons, diddly-dum, there was a list. Anyway, we were at school on the 1st of September 1939, and Joan, my older sister, was told we're going to be evacuated, and she rushed back to our house, and my mother came down, blah, you know. This is all the kids were put in ranks to go on tram cars to a railway station to be moved out, and we thought it was a practice. It was a bit of a joke. It was an elaborate hoax, but it was brilliantly done. When we got to the tram stop at the end of Northumberland Terrace, Father Maloney, who was a very famous priest in his robes, he was a hero from the First World War, was there with a big bottle of Barker and Dobson's toffees, which he was handing to all the kids who got on the tram. Now, the amazing thing was the tram took us to Sand Hill Station, which was near the docks. It had nothing to do with the mainline stations out of Liverpool there. We were all put aboard, and the organisation of the railways, which of course were all private in those days, was amazing because they just got out all their differences, and we ended up sailing merrily along. I don't know how the hell we got there, to Shrewsbury. It's the first time I'd seen wheat stushed in the field, you know, with it all round, and rabbits running about. We got to Shrewsbury, and Shrewsbury, if the posh people say, and we got off that mainline train, if that's what you could call it, onto the local train to go to where we ended up at Jackfield. There were ladies on the platform who gave us brown paper bags, and in the brown paper bags there was a tin of corned beef, some chocolate,
nice,
little bits and pieces which were supposed to keep us going for God knows how long. Anyway, we ended up eventually getting off the train at Ironbridge on a bus to the village hall, and we were all like in a dog show. We were going to be picked by people who were going to look after us. Now, Joan had been told, you've got to stay together, so there was Joan, myself and my younger sister Anne. And, you know, everybody wanted Anne because she was very pretty. They didn't want me with dirty knees. And we were nearly the last when Mrs. Morgan, Jenny Morgan, who became a very great friend of ours, came along and said, I'll take them. Like the last of the refugees.
How many of you were there?
3. There was Joan, me and little sister Anne. Anyway, off we went, and on the way, John Morgan, her son, who was a bit of a git in lots of ways, was toddling along and said, "Who are these then?" You know, anyway, we all sat round for tea, and she made us welcome, this dear lady. And I said, "I want that cake." And that was the one John wanted. John said, "Oh, you can't do this." But anyway, happy memories. But we settled it.
She welcomed the three of you in.
Oh, she was, yeah.
And gave you some cake.
Yeah, we were going to live there anyway.
Right.
Joan and Anne.
Did you have any idea how long you were going to be there?
No, it was supposed to be just a rehearsal. Now this is, remember, the 1st of September 1939.
Yeah.
And Joan and Anne slept in a four-poster bed, which was incredibly old. I don't know what happened to it many years later, but it must have been an antique. Excuse me. Anyway, we were all told to write a letter to tell them at home where we were. This is Mrs. Morgan. And this is, before the post went at 5 o'clock, I suppose. We wrote our little notes, and I've still got the little notes, and sent them home to say where we were. How incredible that is, with a tuppenny halfpenny stamp, which is just less than a penny now. They were posted, and my mother got them the next morning, which you couldn't do now, in this efficient age we live in.
Well, it cost you 15 quid now.
Yeah. Anyway, the other evacuees were from another Catholic parish, St Albans, off Scotland Road, which is the rough, tough part of Liverpool, should we say. That's the polite thing. That's, what's her name? Cilla Black came from that part of the world. Anyway, they sent a priest from St Albans to say Mass for us on the Sunday. Now, Mrs Morgan, she knew we were Catholics, and she knew we had rules which they didn't have. We couldn't have breakfast before we went to communion, all the Catholic rules. The vicar of the Anglican church in Jackville was a wonderful man. He was badly wounded in the First World War, but he bent over backwards to look after us. He really did. He was a great man. And what happened, he'd been preaching to them about these Catholic children. He said, "They're not the ones in Africa we collect donations. They're all just like you." Anyway, we went to Mass in the drill hall, which is featured in Dad's Army, but it's the same thing, betwixt Jackfield and Ironbridge. Anyway, when we came back from Mass, with all the kids from St Albans and art school, and we got back to Mrs Morgan, and Jack Morgan was sitting in his favourite armchair and had the radio on, and that was when we heard Chamberlain say, "We have not had a note from the German embassy, so this country is at war with Europe, with Germany." Now, within a minute, the sirens went. Now, we knew what sirens were, and we had to be, we were told, "Be careful, you've got it down somewhere." But that actually happened within minutes of him saying we're at war with Germany. It was a false alarm. Nobody knows why that happened. But anyway, we all went to Jackfield School, divided up as we were, and I was the happiest boy in the world. I loved that place. We were right next to the river. I could play in the water. I could catch bull knob fish. I could catch newts and God knows what. And it was a huge adventure, and I was a city boy, and this is all I am now. So there you go. And we went to school.
So how old were you when?
I was 7.
7 years old, right?
I was 7, and just a little aside from that, that year, I was my 7th birthday. I'm a leap year baby, so being 8 was important because then I was 2. And this leap year thing, when my mother decided that she was having me, she told my father, "Go and get the midwife." This is in whenever it would be, do the sums, but he went round for the midwife, and she left a slate outside she left a slate outside her house, and you wrote on it what your request was. You know, because we didn't have phones in those days. And she said to him, my father's name was Alban as well, Alban, then there's going to be no baby tonight. No baby's ever been born in my 30 years as a midwife on, you know, this 29th of February, on leap year day. So he hied off home. Then, good heavens, guess what? I arrived. And this midwife, many years later, she told me, she said, you know, you arrived, and there were twins in the next street in Priory Grove, just round the corner. There was 3, which had never happened before. So, hello, dogs. But this birthday business, before my 4th birthday, which is like my 1th birthday, they'd all said, oh, we'll have a big do. Now, sadly, when I was 4, my father had died at the age of 36, not long before, and but they still had a party. My father had been out of work for years in the slum. Intellectually quite brilliant, but couldn't earn a sausage in this dreadful slump, the depression. Anyway, she fallen over.
So your father was unemployed for years?
Yep, for several years.
What did he do for a living anyway?
He was a clerk in shipping, which isn't quite the same as now. My father had been withdrawn from school, from the college I was at, the Jesuit college, when he was 14 because his mother wanted the money. She was a tight-fisted old, more of that later. But can you see?
I think the cover is starting to come off. Another slight problem. Okay, sorry about that interruption, folks. Normal service will be resumed.
As soon as possible. But
You were telling me about your mother.
yeah. She was several things. My father had been out of work for some considerable time. My brother Robert, the eldest in the family, died of diphtheria when he was 7, which was a catastrophic thing.
What is diphtheria?
It's an infection of the throat. You end up not being able to breathe. You've seen that picture of him next door. He's a beautiful boy. His teachers adored him. But he died, and would you believe it, within a very short time, my father had severe pains in his tummy, and they sent for the doctor. The doctor rushed him into Walton Hospital in Liverpool, and the doctors had gone to the theatre, not to the operating theatre, but to the big music hall theatre in Liverpool. So they didn't